We won't get anything more from her.
Okay, so we're getting to the end game of Star Trek Picard this week with Episode 7, The Dominion. As always, I'm Al, this is the Geek in Review. But before I get started, I just want to say thanks to all the new subscribers and followers that I have. I'm glad to have you here, so welcome, and thanks for all the comments on my last video as well. I'm actually going to do a video on some questions and comments that I've had over the last few weeks and the last few videos. So keep an eye out for that, and if you want to support the channel further, please subscribe, because it only takes 2 seconds. And looking at my analytics, which I have to do, 98% of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribed to the channel, and I don't want all 100%, you know, I'll take 50%, 75 for negotiating. I'll take 75% of the people that watch this video subscribe to the channel. But anyway, let's get to it. So yeah, after last week with the Picard body reveal at the end, it left me with a lot of questions.
On the Picard.
So last week's episode left me with more than a few questions. I mean, what do they need the body for? What does that version of Picard have that this version in the show doesn't, if he's a perfect copy at the end of the day? What do they need from him that they can't get from the synth Picard? And what makes Picard's body more dangerous than, say, a Genesis torpedo device? Because that's pretty much one of the most dangerous things in Star Trek canon. And as always, how does Jack tie into all this? So episode 7, I thought, had a lot to do, especially being 3 episodes from the end. And this week, you know, we got all the usual Easter eggs. My favourite was the noise that Vadic's scanner made. If you recognise it, then let me know in the comments below. And despite the title, we don't get much Dominion as we know it, or I should say as we expect it. The title is just a reference to what the word means, so we don't get the evil empire back, I'm afraid. And there is a huge cameo in this episode, which I'll discuss when we get to the spoiler section. But I think it's going to go down pretty well with fans, but when you think about it too much, it does create some logic problems and some canon issues. But I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, after last week's high, this feels a bit of a low. There's not much going on this week, and there's a few canon, let's say, logic issues, and we'll get into that in the spoiler bit, which is now. So if you haven't seen the episode, this is your final chance. And I mentioned in my last few videos that I thought we're getting closer to Cardassia, and this episode does open in Cardassian space, the Chintaka system from Deep Space Nine, where all the battles happened. So I was sort of right, but the one thing that I wasn't right about is we're not getting any Wei-Yun. Instead, straight away, we're getting a cameo from Star Trek Voyager, Captain Tuvok this time, and Seven's contacted him to check if Starfleet has Riker. And he shows up to give us an expo dump on Frontier Day and let us know that he can't get hold of Janeway either. And they keep mentioning this throughout the show. So is she going to show up or not? I'm not entirely sure. And we get the Voyager theme as well when she's talking to Tuvok. So I did think, oh my god, they're going to build a team for the super endgame ending that I keep talking about. But it turns out it's not Tuvok after all. So this is the first sort of problem that comes up, and the first logic problem. Yeah, I did hint at it. Like and subscribe. I hate myself for saying that, but I've got to. But anyway, is Tuvok dead? Because the Changeling kind of hints that he might not be. He says when we're done with him, and then he says when we're done with you, referring to like all of humanity. So for me that isn't very clear if he's dead. I mean, if he is, what a way to go, you know. I mean, if he is dead, that's not going to please some fans, because they just brought Tim Russ on for this Changeling cameo instead of actually delivering his real Tuvok. But then if he is alive, what are they doing with the body? So yeah, it did create a few problems for me, and I think I'm going to have to try and think my way through this. The Titan is on its own. They're not able to recruit any allies so far. But Worf and Raffi are still out there trying to rescue Han from Jabba. Riker from Vatic. And with only a few hours to go before Frontier Day, the gang needs some luck. But Beverly thinks she's come up with a way to detect the new breed of changelings, but it has some ethical questions to it. And my god, does Crusher get some ethical questions in this episode, and the direction that she's willing to go in is pretty shocking. But Geordie's the one that seems to crack the Picard body mystery. He thinks they're using the body along with the changeling's new abilities to create a perfect copy of Picard to pass all the security checks and create the Frontier Day massacre that they've got planned. He also thinks that in case they couldn't get Picard, that's why they're after Jack, is the more DNA they have, even though half of his is only Picard, it'll work better for them and kind of fill in the blanks, as it were. But this isn't the only thing Geordie's doing this episode. He spends most of it with, B4, data, lore, whatever you want to call them. In fact, I think I'm just going to call them the data bank, because I feel quite clever that I come up with that. And he thinks it might have some answers about what the changelings are after as well. So he manages to reboot Data, and, he gets Data, because he could get lore or B4 or a Sun or Lal or anything else. And this is where the second problem pops back up, because Data remembers straight away that he died on the Scimitar.
I'm no longer on the Enterprise. The Scimitar.
In fact, he asks Picard where he is and where the Enterprise is and where the Scimitar is. And if you've seen Nemesis, which you probably have if you're watching a Star Trek video, you know that Data backed himself up onto B4 before he died, so how does he remember his own death? But they've got more than Data to deal with. His lore shows up as well, and I've got to be honest, I miss lore. I think lore was one of the most underused villains in TNG, and he's just a total superior dickhead with a body sharing issue. But who's going to come out on top, lore or Data? We get another scene with Vadic in the weird changeling face, and I'm just going to call him Vadic's boss, and he isn't best pleased with our lack of progress in cracking Riker and Troi, who, by the way, aren't in this episode at all, which I was shocked about. So this is the second time we see the face, and we sort of learn a bit more. It seems to have the ability to torture Vadic, so it seems that changelings do harm another now. But Vadic is having her own kind. So if that's what Vadic is, what is this guy or thing? Is it the Great Link? Is it the original changelings? Is it another alien? Is it another third form of changeling that we don't know about? And it's still after Jack, which it's 7 weeks and we still don't know the reason why they want Jack Crusher. And let's talk about Jack, because this week, we get Jacksimum Overdrive is what I'm going to call it. He says, but now he can literally read minds as well. That's right, you heard it, he manages to read Sidney LaForge's mind when they're in the turbo lift. But yeah, Jack kind of goes a bit insane and crazy, and I don't mean literally with the character, I mean what the writers are doing with the character. He tells Picard that he has always felt different, and that he's feeling guilty, that all of this is his fault, and wants to trade himself for Riker, which isn't a bad idea. And I thought that they were going to have a bit more back and fro debate with this, but it just kind of gets swept under the rug. Because they decide to set a trap for Vadic and take care of her once and for all. So the Titan plays dead to get her on board, and they play dead to get Vadic on board, and then they basically recreate the trap that the prisoners used at the end of Alien 3 to get the alien into the big smelt. Which, yeah, that was a bit of a weird reference. I didn't get why they needed people to run down corridors to do this when they could just do it remotely. And another question here, why when the lights are out on the Titan does every door that opens have a spotlight behind it? Because that was kind of weird when you think about it, wasn't it? But anyway, they managed to catch Vadic, and when questioned she gives some cryptic replies to what she wants, but she says that she doesn't want Jack. She does give some interesting points of view about the Dominion War from the other side. And we find out where they got their new ability from, and I don't think it's going to shock a lot of fans. It was experimentation by Starfleet. I did think this could be an option, because Starfleet are always the bad guy at the end of the day, and it does make sense that they want to exploit and try and master the changeling's abilities. So we find out that this was all done during the Dominion War, when Starfleet had 9 changeling prisoners that apparently they forgot to mention. So yeah, I guess Starfleet is the bad guy again. And the face that Vatic is wearing is the scientist that was in charge of the experiment. So basically, our torturer. So if all this is by Starfleet design and Janeway is missing, is she the Badmiral in charge of all this? They keep mentioning her, but she's not showing up. What do you guys think about this with the Starfleet experimentation? Was it too obvious? Did you guess it? Let me know in the comments below. But then this is where the episode takes a really dark turn. After realising they're not going to get any more information from Vadic, Beverly and Picard just decide to kill her. Like, for sure, I mean, they even talk about how wrong it would be to do it, and they justify it to themselves that it's the best thing to do in the situation. But one execution is a bit severe. Yeah, I know she's threatening her son and all that stuff. But 5 minutes beforehand, she said that she didn't want Jack. It's someone else that's going to come for her. So killing her isn't going to stop this, it's just going to stop her. And while all this is going on, Lore breaks out and kind of disables the ship so they can't help Sydney and Jack that are trapped behind force fields. Until he fully takes control and they drop all the force fields. So Vadic's out, Lore's out, and Jack and Sydney are surrounded by the bad guys. And this is where this episode really goes off the rails here, because we get another ability from Jack. Not only can he read minds, but he can take control of people's bodies. He takes over Sydney to help her kick ass, and this is where this episode lost me here. I mean, it was going so well up until episode 7, but pulling 2 new abilities out for Jack this week, oh, it's a bit of a stretch, and they need to give us an explanation on this. We've been waiting all season for it, and we've got nothing. And let's be honest, they're making Jack far too overpowered. Anyway, Vadic escapes, makes it to the bridge, and I thought she killed Shaw. I mean, Jesus Christ, how many times do you think this guy's going to die and he doesn't? But he's still about. And once she has the bridge, we get a very long speech from her, but no more answers. So she's got the ship, she's got Jack. But yeah, this episode just felt like it was a huge step back from last week. Although we got some backstory on the Changeling history, that's just about it. Jack's just creating more questions and questions every week as he gains power. And we've only got a couple of episodes to go, and we still don't know why they need him. Also, when you think about it, Vadic didn't confirm Picard's suspicions about what they were after with the body. So do they need it for something else? But yeah, a lot going on this week in kind of a quick pace. But as always, we've got more questions than answers. And I've got to be honest, this is probably my least favourite episode of the season. With only 2 to go, they need to do and fit a lot in here. And I hope that the finale isn't just an hour or 50 minutes, because it needs to be longer to fit this all in. You know, next week is the penultimate episode, and they've got to get the Titan back and set up the finale and probably give us some Riker and Troi stuff and Raffi and Worf stuff. So there's going to be a lot going on, as well as all the Jack answers. And I'm dying to know what you guys think about this episode. Was it just me that felt a little bit let down with it? Brett Spiner was phenomenal doing the data lore stuff, but everything else in this was just a bit meh. The action wasn't terrific, and it seems that members of Starfleet are turning into stormtroopers that can't shoot straight. But as I said, I want to know what you guys think, so let me know in the comments below, or you can follow me on Twitter at TheGeeksReviews. If you've made it this far, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. As always, my name's Al, thanks for watching.